The following is a conversation with Jamie Finn. Jamie is a professional football player who currently plays for Birmingham City and is also an Irish international as well. Before making the move across to the United Kingdom playing for Birmingham, Jamie originally played for Raheny and also Shelburne in the Republic of Ireland. In this conversation today, we talk about the highs and lows of Jamie's career so far to date, notably having torn her ACL a couple of months ago, and as well as that, being left out of the World Cup squad in 2023. Jamie is an outstanding player and person, and it was a real privilege to have her on the podcast today to talk about all things football and, of course, little things in day-to-day life. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please feel free to leave anywhere up to a 5-star review across Apple or Spotify podcasts. And if you're listening or watching on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed these conversations and our content. The Trainer 1-to-1 podcast is proudly sponsored by Financial Planning Matters. We recently recorded a latest episode with the founder of Financial Planning Matters, Niall O'Connor. In the episode, we talk about a couple of the basics of what the services they provide do, ways to get in contact, and just various stories about managing your financial future. Here is the thumbnail, and you can find the link for that video in the show notes below. But it's great to have you here. This is a conversation we've been looking to do for a long time, isn't it?
Definitely.
I think, obviously, since the ACL tear, we were keeping, I wouldn't say keeping an eye, but the last thing you want to do is like say, oh, Jamie's back in Ireland, let's go text her. But unfortunately, obviously, you're back because of terrible circumstances. Like, how has the recovery been over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, obviously now I'm 4 weeks post-op, which for me, it's gone by like 4 months, to be honest with you. But the first part of it is done, which is, I think, the worst bit, you know. Now I'm in rehab, couple of days a week up in Santry, so they're putting me through my paces a bit now, so yeah, it's been okay.
And the initial tear of the ACL, that was in an Irish camp as well. Was that contact, non-contact?
No, so we were just preparing for the Italian game, and we were in training, and I was just going to press one of the girls and planted my foot and twisted. And it's weird because I've never done anything to my knee, never, and I knew straight away it was my ACL. It's
really?
So weird. I was just like to all the girls, like, I've done it. Like, I heard a pop, and I don't know. So weird that you just instantly know. And obviously physios, doctors were like, no, like, just get the scan and let's see. But I was just like, I know I've done it. So strange, but
That is strange.
I don't know, yeah. I just had a feeling.
Yeah, good feeling.
I think the minute you hear a pop,
Yeah.
something bad has happened, you know.
Were you in immediate pain?
Yeah, it was sore. All the girls slagged me, say like I wasn't even crying or anything, but like it was sore, like it was bearable. But thankfully I just done my ACL. I know a lot of girls have done MCL, like other stuff as well. So I'm in a good spot considering, you know, that I've just done the ACL.
Is that something in your personality where you'd always have a very positive outlook? Because to me, an ACL tear just seems like the worst of the worst thing.
I mean, it is, but I mean, what can you do? It's done now. I mean, I can't change it, so I just have to go with it, and yeah, I don't know.
Just one step in what is a crazy football journey.
Yeah,
It really
crazy.
is. Even if you look back at the last year, it's incredible. But I think one of the things that we wanted to dive into was, I was reading online, obviously you're from Swords. A lot of your football initially was with like boys teams from like 6 to 13. Like, is there anything in your environment where you began this love of football? Swords seems to be just this big hub of football now at this stage.
Yeah, so I started when I was 5 up in Swords Manor. I have an older sister, and she started playing, so I went down to have a look, and I think I just instantly just clicked with me that I wanted to play. So I went down and played with the boys team. I think it was just like, you know, an academy on a Saturday or Sunday, and then started playing like under 8s, 9s, 10s, and I think that's where I got my toughness from, really, playing with the lads up until I was, I think, 13 at that stage.
Yeah, it's one of the big advantages, I think, in Ireland. We speak about it all the time. It's two things, like the ability to play and have the access to play with boys and girls when you're younger, and then the ability to play first team football early as well. I think you kind of got both, didn't you? Because when you first broke in, it was with Raheny, and if I'm not mistaken, you were around like 17 or 18 years of age. Like, how did you find that transition from playing with boys into girls only football, but it was actually like senior women? Like, it's such a big shift in personality.
It is, yeah, but I think playing with the boys helped me. Like, it helped me in that transition into basically women's football. That toughness that I needed because we're playing with women. Like, it's gonna be tough, and I think that's playing with the boys helped me a lot in that transition. Yeah, definitely.
When you say that like the boys helped in that sense, was it purely just on the physicality aspect, or was it like dealing with like the different personalities, or what was really the big benefits there?
Yeah, maybe both. I think back then, like, there was maybe myself and one other girl, if even, played on the team. So when I rocked up with all the lads, they probably looked and said, nah, she's not going to be any use. And I think the competitiveness in me said, no, I'm going to show these that, yeah, I am good enough to play. And that physical aspect, obviously, yeah, they could be a bit stronger, but I always wanted to compete and get the better of them, you know. So I think that's where that came into it. Yeah.
Sorry,
Go on. No,
I was going to say, would you encourage younger girls to play with boys as early as they can?
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously, don't get me wrong, it's great that there's so many girls teams now. I mean, that's been a growing thing the past couple of years, but I think if you can get in with a boys team, it's going to be no harm to you. It's going to develop you in aspects that maybe you haven't developed yet. Physicality, definitely, and playing with maybe boys that could be faster, stronger, it's only going to develop you better as a player. So, yeah.
Yeah, the best of both worlds would be great, wouldn't it? Like, we were saying to another guest on the podcast a few weeks ago about, you know, what we could do in like the immediate present of Irish football, and one thing was like introducing better facilities around integrating football into schools. But even if there was, because I know when we were playing school football, it was a boys team and a girls team. If there was more, let's say, like inclusive football between like first and third years, even if you wanted to get like more exposure for girls to play with boys, that could be a really good like segue into it as well. And then they obviously can, you know, do whatever they want with their clubs if it was boys and girls. But I think just the options are the most important thing, really, isn't it, when it comes to
Is there a cut-off point now? No, I don't think there is, because internationally they've introduced that, haven't they, Delhi? Yeah, where the 17s and 19s.
You can play down.
Yeah, they can play down now with the lads in the National League, which is, again, more exposure. Like, that's great. It's a great thing to introduce.
Obviously, when I was younger, I think it was 12 or 13 that you had to find a girls team.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, so that was the age then.
It's like an ultimatum. It's like you get to a certain stage and it's like, all right, you got to move on now.
Yeah.
It's mad how it changes. It's good though. It's good that it's quickly evolving. I would say the state of football from when you were growing up to now must be completely different.
Yeah, it is. Like, as I said, like when I was growing up, there's no question about you're playing with a boys team. It's not, oh, there's a girls team or a boys team, which would I prefer to play with? It's you're playing with the boys team, and you'd be lucky to get another girl that plays with you. You know what I mean? Whereas now there is so many girls teams at different levels as well, age groups, like starting younger to older, which is brilliant. Like, that's what you wanted to see, and I think that really kind of stemmed as well from the World Cup. I think people can see it, and I mean, if you can see it, then obviously you can be that player. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think even just comparing like what was back then and what is now, like tomorrow in the Ireland England game, I think RT are taking preference over that versus the Man City Real Madrid game, which if you asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said not a hope in hell would they even consider that. So, and we were saying in the car, even like it's a great, obviously it's a great positive change because it is international football. It's your country, and regardless if it's men or women,
Exactly, that's it.
Get that on the box.
That should be it. Like, it's international football. If it's male, female, it doesn't matter. It's a qualifier for a major tournament. Should be shown on the TV.
100%. You know, it really
Huge
is easy
game
as
as
that.
well. By the time this gets released, obviously, we'll know the result.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's positive.
Hopefully.
Big time, but it's important to address it.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the Raheny move, how did that come about? Because if I remember, my first introduction to senior women's football was Raheny and Peamount as like the two big clubs. How did the move come about to Raheny? Was it a case of I want to get into the best women's team, or did you get poached out of Swords essentially?
Yeah, so I was obviously with Swords Manor, then went to Shels, played there for a couple of years, but I wanted to obviously progress in my career and, like you said, get to the best team, and I wanted to play National League as well, and that was Raheny at that stage, and the manager Casey McQuillan as well, I would have known him, so yeah, he brought me in, and I was very young going into that team, like very young, and I just obviously still know all the girls now that play for Shels that were in that Raheny team. But yeah, it was. I had a great time there. Really matured as well. Played well. Obviously, Raheny merged then with Shels, and we were back to Shels. But my time at Raheny, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, like it really was the core of what shaped obviously the success of Shelburne now. But I think even some people even forget, like obviously Katie McCabe played there as well in your time, and there was a couple of other players as well that
you said a great squad.
Yeah, that moved across to other places. So like historically, it probably doesn't get the credit it deserves for what it's done for the next like foreseeable decade of what Irish football was.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember at the time, like there was debate of Raheny and Shelburne coming together. And I think Shels was such a big club and had such good ambitions for the women's game. And I think that obviously spiraled a lot. And I mean, look at Shels today. I think it's a great club and always getting better season on season. So,
what did you think Shels done really well from the time that you were there? Considering that they were able to hold on to a core group of players, promote players into the WSL like yourself, Chloe, even Katie, obviously as well. Geez, the list goes on with Jess. Izzy. Yeah, like it's ridiculous.
Emily as well.
Yeah, like it's a crazy list of players. Like what did Shels do well over those 6-7 years?
I think keeping the core of youth and experience. I think that's vital in any team. I mean, I was young going into that Raheny team, and there were so many experienced players that took you under their wing, and really kind of brought you along. And I think keeping those players, and Shels weren't afraid to breed in young players, and I think that's so important. I think no matter your age, if you're ready for a game, if the manager sees and knows that you're ready, you should be playing, no matter what age you are. If you're ready for the game, and I think that's what Shels do so well, bring in young players and also keeping the old, I wouldn't say old, but
I know what you mean. You can say it. It's all right.
Experienced players,
of course.
Yeah, to help those young players.
What did you think you done well as an individual player for that tender when you were at Shelburne?
I think it's all about consistency, really. If you can consistently play well, I think that'll get you places. There's no point having 8 out of 10 game and then the next week you have a 2 out of 10. For me, I think consistency is key.
Would you be breeding your whole football persona around consistency and just being that reliable player?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like throughout my career, I've played in numerous amount of positions as well, and I think if you are consistent in that, I mean, I think that's good as like a manager looking at that. You know what I mean? If you're consistent in training and matches, yeah, I think that works well for you.
Reliability.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even within that stage of Shels, or maybe it could have been just in the transition period, you moved across to the States for a year. If I'm not mistaken, it was in Florida.
Florida, yeah.
How did that come about? Was that always an ambition to go to the States first?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people around that time, around my age, were going over experiencing it. I went over to Florida, yeah. It was less than a year I stayed for. Yeah, I probably didn't work out as best as I thought it would have. But I don't regret anything. I think everything shapes you to where you are now. And I came back then to Ireland and played again with Shels, and that's when I kind of got into the senior team. Had a good season with Shels. I think I was in team of the season, and then got called into the senior team. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Sorry, G. What were the reasons you think it didn't work in the US?
I don't know. I think football over there is different as well. Very different. It maybe doesn't suit a lot of players. And I think, I don't know, it just didn't really work.
We hear that a lot. And again, a lot of players go over and do very well. You look at Bambi over there is flying. Yeah. She's had a great college career per se over there. She's doing fantastic. And a lot of other top players even playing now on the national team have played over there. What are the key differences? What did you notice are the key differences between playing, let's say, the Women's National League here, League One Women's here, and then playing over there?
Well, obviously, I was over there on a scholarship.
Yeah.
So you have that aspect of school as well, college as well. I mean, that's a huge thing. Like, if you're not performing in the classroom, you won't be playing on the pitch. And I think that's obviously a huge difference. Like, you know what I mean? Compared to over here, like 100%. you're playing and you're not thinking about grades and stuff like that. So that's a massive thing. I think over there it's really like focused on fitness as well, rather than the technical side of things, you know what I mean? So maybe there's the main differences.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what everyone says.
Yeah, but
it's just fairly clear, isn't it?
It's just more data that backs up the research of it.
yeah. Well, there you go.
Hearing it straight from him. But yeah, it is a weird one because I think America was always seen as like the pinnacle of women's football for years, obviously because of the success they had internationally and stuff. So I've seen definitely a shift from how powerful the Europeans have been, especially the French and the Spanish and the English, of course, purely on putting the footballer first versus the physical aspects of it. So it'd be the ball is now in the US court to see, are they going to make big strategic changes?
Well, they did change, like Emma Hayes coming in, isn't it? Yeah, that's a huge change.
Yeah,
huge change.
That's a great point,
that will shake things up, I would say. Be intriguing to see how they carry on for the next couple of years.
Definitely, yeah, and see how she gets on as well in that environment.
Yeah,
100%. International environment.
Yeah,
so different.
Yeah,
so
100%.
different.
With the Shels experience, and you were saying with the consistency, it just seemed to compound year over year. Obviously, with the success the teams had, was it always your ambition to move across to the UK into WSL? Was that always a goal as an ambition?
Yeah, I always wanted to play professional, and I think at that time the WSL was taking off. I mean, right now I think it's one of the best leagues around. And what was it, like 4 years ago when I went over 3 maybe? So yeah, it was one of the best leagues around, and that was where I wanted to be. Especially for my international career, I wanted to be in the best club environment that I could be at that stage. And I was just grateful that Birmingham came up and I went over. Yeah.
How does a move like that come about?
Well, actually, the manager at the time, Scott Booth, he was interested in me. So we just got in touch and kind of just went from there. And it's obviously in the WSL, I just couldn't turn it down, you know. Mm-hmm. So went over. Yeah,
you never know, don't you? Because I think there's a lot of pressure for young players now, especially that I've seen from who are internationally capped at 17s to 19s. You have agents knocking on their door straight away. And I wouldn't say it's fear-mongering tactics, but there's definitely some cases where I've heard that they'd be approaching players saying that, look, if you really want to get across the UK, this is probably your only option. But you really don't know who is watching at games and what clubs want, rather than being pigeonholed into this, like, facilitator of a move, you know?
Yeah, I think you need to be strong on what you see for yourself and what you want. Like if you have someone telling you, oh, this is your only option, pressuring you into do it, is it the right option? Probably not. You know what I mean? You need to be 100% ready to take that next step. Because going professional it's a total different ball game to semi-pro, or you know. So you need to be ready to take that move, and obviously you're moving away from home as well. So you have to settle in quite quickly to obviously translate into performing on the pitch.
When Birmingham came knocking, not like a checklist, but is there a certain criteria you think it has to hit for you to go, right, I'm going to completely change my life and go over here?
Yeah, I think obviously professional setup is one. You're a professional footballer, playing in the WSL, number 2 as well. And I think it made it easier, the fact that there was already some Irish players there. Yeah. I think when you go into an environment that you know people already, it settles you instantly. You can bounce off them, like how they've done it, what they do off the pitch and stuff. So that really helped me. I was in contact with Louise Quinn. She was already there. So I just bounced off her, like, how have you found it, etc. Just asked her questions about it before even, saying yeah. So
very easy helped. When you have someone in there, is you can vet it very quickly, and I'm sure they'll give you a fairly clear answer as well. Because we've heard it on the other side where someone's looking at a move elsewhere and they'll message someone that they know in the club and they're like, don't come here. Yeah. Which is mad. Like, obviously you're lucky you got on the positive side of that, thankfully, and we're good to go. Yeah,
definitely. And then there ended up being a lot of Irish there our first season, which is great. You always want Irish people around.
That's fair.
Of course. Birmingham's such a big city, and such a big football club, like historically. Really 2 questions. Do you feel the presence of that club badge every time that it's on your kit? Like, is it like, to me, Birmingham was like one of the big Premier League clubs, obviously with Villa, but do you feel the pressure, even like it's not obviously a Manchester United, for example, but it still is a big club in a big city?
Yeah, it is. It's really big, and I don't think people realise that it is such a big club in England. But it's such a privilege to play for a big club like that. And I think obviously our manager came in and he was an ex-Blues player, and I think he obviously reiterated how big that the club is and what it meant to him as well. But it's a privilege to play for a club like that and to represent them every weekend.
Yeah, I think obviously the Jude Bellingham stuff has obviously put Birmingham back on the map per se, but I have to say, like, as a football club, to me they were always massive when I was growing up, because they were obviously a Premier League elite. But what's the facilities really entail for the women's team? What does it look like on a pitch perspective, changing room facilities? It must be chalk and cheese compared to what's available here.
Yeah, it's obviously different. They are currently working on a new setup for us. Hopefully we'll be done pre-season when we go back.
Okay.
Pitches wise, we're on really decent pitches. So yeah, hopefully when we go back, the facilities are up and running and ready to go.
Is it all in the same grounds?
So we trained with the men's. They've moved actually to a different facility, but we used to be on the same.
Okay.
Like, they've been there for years in the same facility.
Okay, nice.
And the what's the relationship like between the men's and the women's and the academy sides? Is there like a shared community feel, or is everybody quite segmented? Like, I've been in a few clubs where academy teams are very far away from the first team, and it's very difficult to see, even like the culture aspects. Whereas when we were in Barcelona, in La Masia, you literally can see out to the new camp every single day. Like, it's funny how clubs shift and change it. Like, what's it like in Birmingham at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's very shared. Like, the academy boys as well would be training in our facility as well, and the girls sometimes as well. So it's very shared, and I think it's important to see what you can work towards as well as an academy player. If you want to become pro and you want to play for the first team, that's what it is. And if you can learn off these players and in and out of training sessions a couple of weeks or in a week, like it's important.
Compared to here with integrating younger players, have you found it in Birmingham that there's a lower frequency of younger players coming in training, which isn't even getting games, or is it higher, or is it similar? What do you think?
It'll probably be a bit similar, maybe a bit less.
Yeah.
A bit less, yeah. But there is a few young kids coming up and play for the English setup as well, underage. But I think it's important to get them in and train, and as I said, see what it's about to train with the first team, because obviously, you know yourself, it's totally different. It's completely faster, and it's
a different game.
Yeah, completely. Yeah,
different game.
What was your favourite game so far for Birmingham? Me and Morgan watched you play against Manchester United, wasn't it? It was a big game. Yeah, wasn't it? And you played well in that, actually, to be fair to you. And I think so did Emily Whelan, was excellent in it too.
Emily played, I think. The United were quality though. I think they did poppies in the end.
Yeah.
I think it was like maybe 4 or something in the end, but it was a good game.
We held on like 70, 80th minute, and just sometimes the quality of United, Man City, Arsenal just comes through, and they ultimately score and end up winning. But I think my favourite game was probably when we beat Arsenal. Yeah, that was great. I was right. Was I right back and Katie was left backer? I don't know. And I nutsed her a couple of times and we beat them, and it was great. It was great. That was just after Christmas, and their fans were singing like, "Oh, you're still on Christmas break," and that was great. It was great. That was one I remember.
I'd say so, honestly.
Playing against the best clubs in the world. It's unreal. Yeah. Honestly, unreal. When you said earlier, you mentioned that you want to pursue your career by going to Raheny and then obviously convert to Shels. When you were younger, now obviously you're still young now in football terms without a doubt, but like not even 15, 16, you're thinking even younger than that. Did you have true aspirations of playing professional football? Did you think that was something I could actually pursue?
In my mind, yes. I always believed that I'd end up being a professional footballer. But maybe to other people it wasn't that clear because there wasn't that many girls going over. You'd find it odd, and I think obviously Katie went over and Emma Byrne before her. Like there is a few, Niamh Fatty and all, but now there's so many going over, and it's becoming the norm. to go over to play professional football. And I think that's so important for younger kids to see.
The shift happens so quick, doesn't it? Because again, like I said, you're still very young. That within you're not even the start of your lifetime, that it can change so quickly from a couple of people going away. And it's not generally like the outliers, the absolute top of the top of the top, and they can't be missed, to now that everyone that's performing really well in the league for a couple of years is probably going to get an opportunity to play pro football. It's amazing. It's great to see.
Is there any particular way that you would prepare for matches?
In what way?
Mentally. I know we were talking to Paddy Kirk. It was a good example where he just picked up journaling, for example. So the day before a game, he would write a lot of notes. It's a good way to just like mentally dump out everything that he was thinking. Yeah,
I've learned kind of to do that post World Cup, like to write down my kind of goals for the maybe week in training, and then again goals for game day, because obviously that would look different teams you're playing, different positions, so yeah, that's one I've kind of picked up recently. Like food wise and stuff, I'd be a bit boring and have the same stuff all the time. Like I'm
consistency, as you said.
Yeah, very much like that. Routine. I love a routine.
Yeah, honestly. Amen. You're preaching to the choir here. Yeah. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
I don't know. I'm laughing at you. You were saying there about the idea of journaling. Do you have like a structure for that? I'm genuinely intrigued with how you go about it.
Just the start of the week in training, what I want to improve on, and I would go through clips as well, with my coach, manager, whoever, from the previous game, what I worked on, what I done well, what I didn't do so well, and how can we implement that in training, and can we do maybe like 20 minutes at the end of training on that. So I'd write all that down and what I need to improve on and stuff.
And then for game day then, because I presume it could change that if you might not be in the squad or whatever, then your goals change, everything changes. When do you normally write that out? Still at the start of the week or no?
So for match day, well obviously at the start of the week what you work on will obviously go into match day, but probably we get told the team's Saturday. So yeah, on a Saturday after the team's announced, I know where I'm playing, and then go from there.
Preppy, nice.
Yeah, cause it's a funny one. I always like to ask, high performing players, what are they doing before games? What are they doing after? Because some players are so laid back and just like that, they just want to get out and play, and some are very meticulous. And I mean, whatever fits like, but it's always just interesting to see what's going on, because I think some players even get caught too much in routine, even with the whoops, for example. You look at the score, it's like crap, not feeling good mentally, even that's just a blocker, which is just ridiculous. With the international football, what is that like in terms of tempo differences and general feeling versus playing for your club?
Yeah, so I think with obviously playing for your country is a lot of pressure, and I think when you play against, say, the likes of France, Spain, top nations, it's such a physical, fast game. It really is, and you need to be at your best. Whereas, well, obviously in WSL, when I first went over, I felt like it was an international game every weekend, to be honest, because that was the standard that was in the league. And yeah, that's pretty similar, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just seems to be like a tweak of physicality, speed. Like obviously they're going to be great technically. Yeah. So it's like just the athletic side is really kind of turning up a notch, is it?
Yeah, definitely. I think like if you go into a camp as well, and if you've 2 games in a camp, it's also difficult as well. You prepare so much for the first game, and then it's right, what can you do to recover in 3 days to the next game, and it's probably the biggest game of your career as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's pretty difficult, but we have great like backroom staff and physios and nutritionists and stuff like that to help with that.
Go on.
It is well documented.
We keep doing the same thing.
Well, yeah, but actually, to be fair to you, when I was going to come in and you came in first, you were going to ask the same questions I was.
Oh,
so we're on telepathy at the moment.
Yeah, okay, go.
But look, it's very well documented about being left out of the World Cup team, and anybody can read a Twitter, your statement, they can read any of the news articles and stuff. So like my question really just is, with a couple of months of reflection, like how are you feeling now about it? Is it still lingering? Have you come to peace with the decision?
It could be very like easy to be resentful in any way from what happened. Like anyone put in that position could be very, very easy to be like that way. But the minute I decided to go to Australia as a training player was the minute I decided that I'm going to play for Ireland again. And I wasn't kind of gonna let one person's opinion define my whole rest of my career, because ultimately for me it's about playing for Ireland. Like everyone knows how proud I am to be Irish and represent Ireland, and I wasn't gonna let that go. And when I decided to go to Australia, that was when I decided I'm gonna play for Ireland again, because I'm not gonna let that ruin it.
And there's no hate, resentment, probably maybe some under the skin. So sometimes really, like, you always shift, don't you, on a day-to-day basis. There might be some inklings of it.
I mean, I would, like, it's such a huge thing in someone's career. Like, that's what you work towards, a World Cup. And I mean, I played in majority of the games, 80-90% of the games, and to the way it happened as well, it was horrible. It was heartbreaking, really. But I could have gone two ways. I could have, like I said, resented everything and everyone in that moment, or I could have said, no, I'm not letting this ruin what the rest of my career I have. And that's when I decided that I want to play for Ireland again.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you find out the information
of the team selection?
Yeah.
So we were just in, obviously, camp in UCD, and we just got kind of pulled into rooms individually with manager and coach, and just got told.
Right.
Simple as that.
Simple as
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's football, isn't it? Yeah. You just never know. Oh, no, it's heartbreaking. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not heartbreaking. You know what I mean? Like, as you said, I can't even fathom what that would have felt like in the room. I can't even imagine what it feels like now. Like,
yeah, it's something I don't think will ever leave me, and that's fine, because it's such a big thing in my life. I know, like, getting to a World Cup is the ultimate goal, I think, as a soccer player, football player.
It is.
Like, it is. There's no denying that's, you want to represent your country at a World Cup. And like I said, I couldn't change the decision. So if I wanted to play in green again, I had to go. And ultimately, if I didn't go, I think I would have regretted that, because I'd done so much to help the team to get there. And if I seen like pictures, the videos of the girls there, I would have regretted not going.
No,
So
of course.
I think I'd done the right thing in going, but obviously it was so difficult to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately you're looking at someone else living your own dream every single day.
I'd never even thought about that.
Yeah.
I'd never even thought about that.
I'm standing on the pitch and looking at people that, you know, it was difficult.
Christ.
It's one thing to, like, if you're in around a squad, not even like actively involved every single week, but if you're in the fringes of a squad and there's still even a chance of getting into a World Cup squad, you're going to be disappointed when you're left out. But if you're so actively involved in the qualification, and not just like a sub every so often, but starting the majority of games, contributing the majority of games, and then to find, like, did you have any notions prior to the meeting that, there's any way I'm not going to this World Cup? Like,
no, and I wouldn't like say that in a cocky way. I don't
think it's cocky at all to say,
because I'm not like that as a player, and anyone who knows me as a person knows that. But obviously everyone around you has said you've done enough to be in the team. Every like training session, for me personally, I proved that I should be in that team. Even the season I had with Birmingham, I played every single game. I started every single game that season.
At the top level.
Yeah, and even off the pitch, the moment we qualified in Glasgow, I was tunnel vision towards the World Cup. What can I do off the pitch, on the pitch to be at a World Cup? And everyone knows that about me. I've done absolutely everything. And in the moment when it happened, you always look back and think, did I do everything? And yeah, I can say I did. And it's just one person's opinion and decision, and I couldn't change it.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, that's all it is. Just an opinion, isn't it? And a decision. What was your support network like in Australia? Did you have close friends nearby? Were staff checking in? Was there any like extended arm just to check in that you were okay?
To be fair, my family obviously booked to go to Australia. Not kind of knowing this would happen. Obviously, to book something like that, it's a risk. Like we didn't know the team yet, but they knew themselves that they obviously thought I'd done enough to be in the team. So they booked, and they weren't going to go, but they said for me to support me and to be there for me in Australia, they went. So it was really nice to have them there.
Lovely.
Yeah,
that's great.
The dynamic in the squad must be, because you want everyone to do, you want the team to do well, you want everything to go well.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine it. Now
and
actually thinking about it,
I was in a lot of maybe people don't know this, but like team meetings and all. I was in everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. And it was so difficult for me to sit there and just look on the board and not see my name there. You know what I mean? But constantly living in this, you know, for a month or whatever it was.
It's a bubble, isn't it, when you're in a camp? Like camps in general are meant to be like bubbles, but a World Cup or a bigger tournament camp must be an entirely different feeling in itself.
Yeah, definitely. But at the time as well, I also said, like, how can I take this experience and learn from it as well? Like, I want to be at another major tournament, and I wanted to see how it went, what happened at it. And obviously we've never been at one, so that was a time to do that as well. So I've done that, yeah.
I mean, if you can get through that, you can get through most things, I would imagine, in the sporting environment.
I mean, yeah. Well, I said 2023 kind of parked it. Although when I said I went to Australia, when I came back, obviously straight back into Birmingham, started playing again, and the goal was to get playing with Ireland again. And I done that. Came on a couple of times, and then started against Northern Ireland. So it was really, really nice to end the year on that. It was a bit of relief, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, as I said, gonna let that affect the rest of my life. Because managers come and go.
Big time.
Your passion for your country, that doesn't go, and wanting to play. So I was very happy that I got that, and Eileen gave me the chance to start the game. So it was a good end to that year.
Of course. No, of course it is. And how are the squad now over the last couple of months since you've obviously came back in? Is there a different feel around the camp since a couple of the managerial changes and stuff?
Yeah, obviously having Eileen in is really nice and fresh. Obviously her Dublin accent is lovely to hear. She's been great, and obviously our backroom staff have been amazing. A few changes as well, so I think it's always nice to have a fresh change and have an ambition of where you want to go, where you see Ireland being in the European stage and the World Cup stage, and everyone being on the same page. And I think it's looking good.
They're the games we're playing though, isn't it? Like France, England, like although it's a tough ass group, like, but they're the games that you want to. But that's the reason why you play international football in the first case, you know. And it seems to me that, especially with the women's team, we have, I would say, a nice arrogance towards these teams, to the fact where we can go out and we're not expecting a result, but we're competing for a result. Whereas when we're watching the men, sometimes I feel like it's really just hope. Like there's no, it really is. Do you agree?
I heard the behind the camera.
Yeah, like it is. Like, but when you're watching the women's team, it's like, fuck, like we've got a chance here. You know?
Yeah, even I was watching the French game the other day. We were struggling on the counter a little, but obviously one could just, there's one that could just come off, because they weren't killers. They're obviously quality. They brought on the centre forward. Oh my God, she is outrageous.
Yeah,
See the
a
header?
lot of great players.
Oh my God, like I'd say she was on the pitch 10 seconds. Bang, header hits the bar. It was outrageous, wasn't it? But yeah, there was hope. There was so much hope in the game, and defensively very well organised. With regard to the new system, because new gaffer, new backroom staff, is it a whole new style of play, or is there any correlation between the two?
I think obviously being Irish, you never go away from that underdog type. Like defending for your lives.
Get after them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're about. But the next step, I think, in the teams going up the ladder is, like you said, counter attacks. How can we keep the ball better?
Yeah.
And I think that is what Eileen's trying to get across, and just being adaptive on the pitch, and I think that's the next phase for us as a team, being better with the ball, and how can we affect the other team. So
yeah, I think that's fair, because Ireland is generic thing, isn't it? It's just we could sit off. We're good at it, very good defensively, but we have struggled in transition, especially obviously offensive transitions. It'd be good to see that change. You could see some ideas of it emerging. It's gonna be tough to implement that quickly, regardless. But when you're playing against top nations in a qualifier, it's gonna be even harder because they are doing anything to win the game. So, it's good to see those. Like if you can fix those minor little things, well, they're minor, but they are major. They make huge difference to winning games. You can see a very strong trajectory for the team, can't you, over the next while on an international stage? Because obviously you have the height of qualifying for a World Cup, and it's very easy to go there, and then it kind of just, that's it. It can start to go down, but it doesn't seem to be going that direction.
No, I think because everyone in the squad, even backroom staff, know that we've got to a World Cup. Brilliant. What's next? We want to get to the European Championships next season or next summer. And then the next World Cup. We don't just want to be that team that's just qualified for a World Cup and done nothing after that. And everyone is on the same page with that. And like I said, how can we get our game to that next level?
One of the questions that I just thought of there, which I think would be kind of insightful to a lot of like young girls listening, and I suppose anybody that's listening, what does a typical Irish training camp look like? And I'm talking like the nitty gritty. So like, where does it start from? Like your training prep, what do your warm-ups consist of? Like, what does a full 2-hour session look like?
Yeah, like obviously you have schedule for the day, breakfast time. We would train probably like midday, maybe before that. We would go into like the high performance gym up in Abbottstown. Get your bits done before training, whether that's individual stuff, like stuff that you're kind of struggling with, or just kind of prepping activation for going out onto the pitch. And obviously starting the warm up. So we have a new like S&C Ivy.
We're trying to get her on the podcast.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Give us a plug, will you?
Yeah.
Well, that we were chatting to her DMs.
Yeah, no, she's brilliant. She's been such a breath of fresh air, and her ideas, like every warm up is different.
Great.
Which
Class.
is,
Lovely.
as a player, that's like, it can be so boring. Just
Don't get me started on warm-ups, dynamics,
you know what I mean?
and that.
And she's so clever in what she does. Like, say we're doing a sprinting day or something, the whole warm up is geared towards that, and you don't even realize.
Great.
You know what I mean? You're not even thinking, like,
Yeah.
So that's been brilliant. And it keeps you like engaged as well, as in like, we're doing this for this reason. There's always a reason why we're doing something, why we're doing this warm up, why we have a ball included in the warm up. You know what I mean? So yeah, warm up, and then obviously sessions aren't as intense because we have a short window to the game. So it's more like tactical and position wise, and what formation we're going to play and how we're going to do that. And stuff like that. It's obviously different days.
Would you do your tactical foundations in an 11v11 format, or would it be a 9v9 format, or how do you do them?
Yeah, sometimes 11v11, but very short. Obviously stop start and getting vital information in and seeing if it can translate. And then obviously you could do shorter ones as well, but it's very hard as an international manager. I think.
I'd say so.
The window's so short.
It's so short. You come in on a maybe Sunday night, Monday, you play on a Friday. Like, it's so difficult to get everyone on the same page, and if you play in a different formation with club and to come in and play in a different formation with international, it's difficult.
Different demands. Everything's different about it, isn't it? Do the individual staff utilise time well in international camps? What I mean by that is, for example, if you need to get across you could be playing centre mid week in, week out, and all of a sudden now you're going back to right full. So first of all, that's a shift individually. Then you're looking at opposition analysis. Then you're looking at your own analysis. Then you look at a new system, and the conditions are this, and then there's so much factors. Do the individual staff try utilise time, like for example at breakfast or going for lunch or in between time, if you have some spare time, knocking on the door, going and just go through little details?
Yeah, to be fair, they do, and I think it's been brilliant now since Eileen and our backroom staff came in. They've been very like detailed, but not too much detail that can overwhelm you.
Yeah.
Just the vital pieces of information you need to know for this game and your position. Even like on the pitch, if they want to go through it with you, video on the tactics board, They've been very, very good in that aspect, yeah.
Do you like coaches being hands-on, or do you just like leave me alone?
No, I do like kind of hands-on. I like to be told when I've not had a good game and why have I not had a good game, what have I done wrong, and also you like to be told when you've had a good game. I think it's both. If you can take criticism, that's also a good thing. Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah, it's a fine line. I think from what I've seen in high performance environments, I think there's a certain level, isn't there, when at the end of the day, players cross the white line. There's only like you could be set up great in whatever formation, you go 1-0 down to 5 minutes, and it's a whole different ball game. Like everything that you've done for the previous sessions have essentially gone out the window because of a quick change. Have you felt yourself isolated in those situations where you've just abandoned the tactics book and you've just relied on your own first principles?
yeah. Sometimes I think it happens so quick that you have you just have to do that. You have to rely on what you think is best in this scenario, and then you have to deal with what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
I think football happens so quickly that you just kind of have to do that. And yeah, I've done it in a couple of games.
Yeah, like you're telling me that the top players don't do their own thing on the pitch. Like they absolutely
yeah,
do.
they do.
100%. And the good luck telling them otherwise.
Yeah, like the sporting ignorance, we talk about it a lot. I actually enjoy the conversation of it. That some players are just, they can get the best access to this, the best gym, and they just don't care. They just want to play. They don't want any information.
Yeah.
You strike me as someone who wants information.
Yeah.
And you're saying that you're quite detail oriented and you like someone being hands-on. How do you find getting on with players who aren't like that? Because not everyone is like that.
No, they're not. But I think if you can help them in a certain way, by even communicating on the pitch, like take 2 steps backwards, like, you know what I mean? If you can help that person that is maybe not that hands-on, because everyone's different. Everyone learns different as well. So yeah, there's gonna be players that don't want to learn, and that's the fact of football. Some players don't. But if you can help them in some way and kind of teach them, and listen, maybe they'll turn around and say, "Oh, that's actually some good information. What else you have?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, is there some players that you've worked with in the past or even now where they would have no interest in what staff had to say, but they'd have real respect for the players that they were playing with on the day, and they listen to anything that they'd say? Probably not as extreme as that now, but
yeah, like I think in the women's game, we are very open to being coached. I do think that, obviously I can't speak for the men's game, I don't know, but in the women's game, I think we are very open to feedback and being coached. And I think that's so important to improve the game as well, to get the game to where levels it can get to. You need to listen to coaches that they only want to help you. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's a good point too. That's all they do. They all want to help. But like that's actually a good point. Like even if you have a full squad of like people who are just interested in learning and knowledge, like if of course you do have the right person in charge who's given that information, like the chances of development and improvement are tenfold. As you can see, even just like getting to a World Cup, not just getting to a World Cup, but competing, coming back, competing now in the European Championships, and like there is no surprise with that, you know, that if you have a squad of real competent people who want to learn and develop, there's always going to be benefits there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as you said, it's a squad effort. It's not, you're not going to get to a European Championship or a World Cup with one player. I think it's vitally important that the whole squad, backroom staff, are on the same page and want to get to the same places that you want to get to. You know what I mean?
After such a turbulent, because we spoke like probably for about an hour ish, and there's been so many positives, but very drastic negatives as well with the recent injury and then the World Cup. Day to day, how do you regulate? Because football is a very turbulent game. Now you're in a difficult spell of it at the moment. How do you regulate day to day? What do you do to just? You said routine earlier.
Yeah, I was about to say
what does
routine.
that
I have to get my routine.
What does that consist of?
Well, right now it's just rehab, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think when you're in these certain situations, like being injured, you can actually take a step back and I think maybe learn a bit more about your own game, and how to become a better player, and also kind of give yourself a pat on the back for what you've achieved, because
that's great to hear.
As an athlete, you never kind of sit down and think, geez, fair play.
Yeah.
I've done this, I've done that. It's always like, what can I do next? Where can I go next? What can I do? You know what I mean? And I think it's so important to really recognise what you've done, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You're dead right, because sport is so short term.
Yeah.
It's a tiny career regardless, but the highs are, everyone says it sounds so generic, but
I know.
Like it's absolute fact. You win a league or something, you get to the World Cup, it's like, right, what now? It's like no one can ever, and listen, we're all culprits of it, even in just day-to-day life, just to sit in it and be happy with that one moment, because it doesn't last forever. What do you do to reflect? Is it conscious? Like, do you, like, for example, meditation or anything? Like, do you go down them lines, or is it now that you just have probably a little bit more spare time than you'd like, because you have to do your rehab and then you can't really do much else? So is it just a case where it happens naturally?
Yeah, it probably does naturally. I'm a bit of a softie, and I like to look back on videos and stuff of what I've done and stuff like that. But I think it is important as an athlete to do that. You need to recognise the highs, also the lows as well. You need to recognise those things. But I'm also currently doing my UEFA B.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I've 1 or 2 more things to do of that. So
I keep the mind activated.
Yeah, it will.
Nice.
It's funny, isn't it, when playing comes out, like, it's such a big chapter in your everyday life, and when you take that out, something has to fill whatever that gap is, and it seems to me like the gap that's being filled is like more learning, more education, but also like a little bit of time to kind of, you know, as you said, like, self-appreciate and just reflect. Because I think high-performing people, they try to cut off the things that are easiest to cut out. And I think that also includes like anything that has to do with the self. So like, you know, any like self-reflection time, like, that's easy to cut out. What's the next thing? But I think when you strip away all the crutches of, you know, I'm playing this, I don't have time for that. Like, it's kind of like the body and the mind kind of like wants to naturally go there. So it's nice to kind of get that relief. It'd be very interesting to see if you approach games differently when you're back fully fit. Like, after having like, wow, like, this has been an amazing few years of my career, like, now it's time to push on, like, because you just get caught in that bubble and then bang, it's 10 years down the line. Like,
yeah, I've been speaking to people really that have done their ACL as well and have periods of not playing, and they always say you come back better player and a better person. You learn a lot about yourself. So you're probably, I don't know what I'm gonna learn about myself, but yeah, it all is a learning curve. And I think in life it's literally like, as you said, highs and lows and how you react to them. It's genuinely 10% of what happens to you and 90% of what you're gonna do about it. Literally, it could be 5 and 95. You know what I mean? It's how do you react to what's happening.
and what's the appeal of coaching to you? It's just this thirst for knowledge?
Probably more so, yeah. I do see myself coaching at some points. But I think now, being a footballer, like, obviously when I'm back in Birmingham, you do have a lot of spare time. And if you can get in stuff that you like and want to learn more about. So I just chose to do the UFB, and it's going well.
Nice. Are you doing it here?
Well, most of it was online.
Okay.
So I have 1 or 2 more bits to do, and then done.
Nice.
Yeah, be interesting to see again as you start to get back playing again, and you have the UFB under the pocket. You're going to have more of a
difference.
you're going to see the game in a coaching light, which is
Giving it the stop and stand stills.
yeah.
Giving all them ones.
Yeah, at least come here. If I was a player, I would hate to stop playing like in a game. So at least I think now it might be a case where it's like, this is important.
Yeah.
We'll have some more further appreciation for it.
Yeah.
Have seen it from the other side. What's the return look like now? So you said you're 4 weeks post-op.
Yeah.
How is that like? I'm sure there's a set structure that you're going to go through with Santry. Obviously, bearing in mind you're going to have to do certain tests at certain stages. But in general, what does that look like now on the return to playing?
Yeah, so you'd be probably looking at a 4-month test for your testing of hamstring squads, everything really. So that'll be 4 months, and then a 7-month test again, see how you are. And then it's just kind of seeing how your knee reacts. Like, obviously I've been chatting to a lot of players that have done it, and they all kind of say everyone's different and how they react to rehab and how your knee reacts. So it's difficult to say a timeline. Like, it can be anything between 6 to 12 months. Could be longer. I don't know, but I think what I've learned in 4 weeks is to take it day by day. And I think that's what's gonna help me on this road.
Do you do all your rehab in Santry at the moment, or do you have to do anything externally by yourself?
I do it a small bit by myself, but it's a lot of like band work and stuff like that at the moment. But majority is in with Santry
nice.
up there. Yeah,
Great facility, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant.
Lethal.
Yeah.
Sort my shoulders out.
Yeah, Morgan had a shoulder problem for years, and he got it sorted in a day.
Yeah,
in a day.
Honestly,
I wish I would be sorted in a day.
It was a day though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Morgan?
it was immobility or something, and your man was just so good. Great detail, so good, so efficient with his communication. I was like, I just needed this months ago. Anyway, there you go, Santry plug.
Santry
tell you what,
plug,
we're plugging everything.
Well, look, thanks a million for coming on, Jamie. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being so open about the World Cup aspect and just giving us some insight into your day today. Like, I've no doubt that when you come back fully fit, you'll be obviously right back to level. And as you said, from what I've gathered as well from other players with ACLs, like it is a new level, primarily because of what you've learned as a person versus the actual football aspect, which at the end of the day, you're a footballer for X amount of time, but you're a person for life, which is obviously,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful words you to close out, huh?
Yeah, lovely.
Beautiful.
Thanks,
man. No problem. Thanks you. Jamie, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.